day 243 of the Trump administration will be remembered for Donald Trump's appearance on the world stage, in part because he declared his America First policy in front of the United Nations. He went on to declare terrorists losers. He called Kim Jong-un Rocket Man again, and he threatened to destroy North Korea if the U.S. was forced to defend itself.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into. Frankly, that deal is an embarrassment to the United States, and I don't think you've heard the last of it, believe me. Major portions of the world are in conflict, and some, in fact, are going to hell. The United States and our allies are working together throughout the Middle East to crush the loser terrorists and stop the reemergence of safe havens they use to launch attacks on all of our people.
Our White House correspondent Hallie Jackson reported tonight that there was an audible reaction to Trump's threat to destroy North Korea. He called out several other nations. He saved his toughest language for North Korea and Iran.
Then the depraved regime in North Korea, band of criminals, hostile behavior. The Iranian government masks a corrupt dictatorship behind the false guise of a democracy, to an economically depleted rogue state whose chief exports are violence, bloodshed, and chaos, a murderous regime. It is time for the entire world to join us in demanding that Iran's government end its pursuit of death and destruction.
In keeping with UN tradition among nations that are enemies, North Korea's delegation walked out of the hall before Trump started speaking, leaving empty chairs and a low-level official behind. Iran's foreign minister called the speech ignorant hate speech. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu said he had never heard a bolder or more courageous speech. And the foreign minister of Sweden called it a bombastic nationalist speech. President also mentioned the sacrifices America have made for the values of the United Nations Charter, and he said this about World War II.
It is an eternal credit to the American character that even after we and our allies emerged victorious from the bloodiest war in history, we did not seek territorial expansion.
A lot to talk about tonight. Let's turn to our leadoff panel. Jeremy Bash is with us, former chief of staff at the Pentagon and CIA, also former counsel to House Intel. Anita Kumar is with us here in New York, White House correspondent for McClatchy Newspapers. And Eli Stokols is with us, White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal and an MSNBC political analyst. Eli, you go first. What was that we witnessed today?
It was a lot of machismo and bombast sort of presented as a foreign policy. I don't know that talking tough and trying to intimidate world leaders has ever really worked as a foreign policy, but that's what the leaders of all these other countries saw. And there is such a wide gulf between the rhetoric and the reality here. There are a couple examples. He said we have to call out the enablers, the people who are enabling these rogue regimes. But the president didn't do that himself in the speech. The only time he mentioned Russia, the only time he mentioned China, it was to thank them for supporting sanctions resolutions at the UN. He said nothing about their role supporting Assad, propping up North Korea. He's talking about the Iran deal. The tell was when he said, it's one of the worst deals. You haven't heard the last of it. Believe me. Believe me means, yeah, this is bluster. Because what has the Trump administration done on the Iran deal? They've certified that Iran is complying with it every single month. Doesn't seem like they're going to tear the thing up. And you talk about self-interest of these sovereign nations as some impetus for international collaboration. He forgets that the people who are sort of abiding by this theory of self-interest, that sovereign nations, nation states, doing what's in their own best interest, those are all the countries that he did call out by name. Maduro in Venezuela, Assad, Kim Jong-un. So there's a lot of incoherence in the speech and just so much noise and loudness that it was really stunning. Maybe not stunning for people who heard this president over the course of the campaign, who have listened to him every day of this presidency, but in that setting, for that audience, this was something that I don't know that we've ever really seen before.
I want to quote Anita and how she summed it up in her lead for McClatchy newspapers. President Donald Trump delivered the message of the voters who elected him. In other words, in front of that iconic emerald stone, which he has criticized as cheap and offered to redo, standing there before 139 member nations, you saw him talking to his base.
I sure did. I mean, if you followed him on the campaign, you heard exactly what he said then. He talked about the populist nationalist message. We're in it for ourselves, America first. He used that almost one time, but that's exactly what people wanted to hear. And, you know, I have to say over the last few months that people have gotten a little disillusioned, some of his supporters. Mostly they like him, they still support him, but there have been a couple things, Afghanistan, different things that he's done where
Healthcare failing to
right,
repeal
where
and
they
replace.
thought, is this really the guy? And I talked to people today who said, oh yeah, this is Trump. This is the guy. They were worried about him, but they heard him today, and it was exactly who they thought they elected.
Jeremy, look at it from the other way. If you were in your old jobs at either Pentagon or CIA, how would you have received this speech?
Well, Brian, I think I would have first tried to reassure my best allies in the world, those in NATO, those are our treaty partners in Asia, and reassure them that despite the rhetoric of America first, America was not abdicating our global leadership position. You know, I think that's a difficult position that many in our government feel because the commander-in-chief is espousing this us versus them mentality, really this neo-isolationism, drawing up the drawbridge and saying that we're going to fend for ourselves in a world in which 97% of the population of the world lives outside our borders. We have to trade with them. We have to work with them. We have to work in conjunction with them to solve the most critical problems of the world. And there he is at the United Nations saying we're going to go it alone. It's really not a recipe for solving any of the problems that the United Nations can potentially solve.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.